Boy, do I have a topic for you today as we are jumping into a bonus episode talking all things the power, purpose, and pressures of disruptive leaders who are called to break generational cycles. Listen, you are here listening to this podcast because you have been called to be a generational change agent. You've been the one who's been called to elevate your family's position into a new level. And I want to say that in doing so, it always costs you something. There are the good, there's the bad, there's the challenges, there's the pressures, there's all the things that come with it. And so today we're going to be really jumping in on this bonus episode on a topic that is near and dear to my heart, because we are really jumping in and becoming those generational change agents who are ready to receive the generational wealth that God has created and called us to step into. Again, it's going to cost something, and it's going to require us to get on the battlefield and to be disruptive in the way that we are positioning our thinking, that we are leading our teams, we are leading our families, and we are leading the clients and community that we are being called to serve. And so we're going to be getting into the book of Judges and talking about a powerful, disruptive woman who did just exactly what we're talking about. She got on the battlefield and she fought for something greater than herself. She led her country into victory. 40 years actually of rest. 40 years of rest. Listen, some of you are called to that. And if that's you and you're hearing my voice and you know that it's greater than you, then get ready to take notes, because we are about to get into this doggone thing. What's up, leader? Welcome to the Gifted Entrepreneur Show, the dopest podcast on the planet that explores the world of Christian entrepreneurship and reveals secrets to unlocking your unique codes to create generational wealth. I'm your host, LaDondra Hervey, wife, mom, award-winning author, and Christian business coach who's excited to take you on a transformational journey of taking bold steps to unlock your unique gifts and pursue your entrepreneurial dreams with unwavering faith. Buckle up. It's time to make your dreams of creating generational wealth a reality. Hey, you guys, before we get into today's juicy topic, listen, I have some phenomenal news for you. We are getting ready to kick off our first ever Deborah Challenge. And y'all, this challenge is going to be just super juicy, and it's going to be a reset for those of you who are business owners and business leaders who have been called to break generational cycles, do business God's way, and elevate yourself into the financial position that you know that you were created for. And so the Deborah's Challenge, we are empowering leaders to reclaim God's promises. This is a call to rise into God's promises and to elevate your financial position. Now listen, this is going to be a 5-day free event that is going to really help you to conquer and thrive through forgiveness. We're going to be talking about what that really looks like so that you can really get into that elevated position, because we talk about creating generational wealth is about becoming the person who's ready to receive that generational wealth. And so a lot of times we're in that place to where we are not where we need to be, and we're in struggle and strife because we're holding on to unforgiveness. Another day we're going to be talking about casting off the weight of the season. And we're really going to be releasing those heavy burdens that have held us captive from really growing and elevating into our next level. And the next thing, we're going to be learning how to listen to God's battle plans for your business. Listen to God's battle plan for your business. That is huge. So many of you have found yourself struggling because you're like, okay, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm doing all the right things, but I continue to find myself hitting up against a brick wall. Well, we're going to create alignment. We're going to get back into alignment, hear God's voice, and really understand his battle plan for your business. And lastly, we're going to understand how to reconnect to God's promises and to start taking the actions that you know that you've been called to take. And I know that fear can get in the way. I know that life circumstances can get in the way. I know that even family and responsibilities can get in the way. But what I can tell you is that those things are just things, and those things can't become distractions. And when I say things, family is very important, but God won't put more on you than he has equipped you to handle. And so when you are able to get back into position and you're doing things God's way, then you are able to get back into a position where you're in flow. And for us, the acronym FLOW is following the leading of wisdom. And when you're following the leading of wisdom, then now you're able to get back to a place of peace, get back into a place of purpose, and you're following his battle plan, and you're reconnecting to his promises, and you're starting to take those bold actions that really are going to move the needle in your life and in your business. So again, y'all, 5 incredible days where you're literally going to be we're going to be going deep and reconnecting. This is one you don't want to miss. I have not done a challenge in quite some time, and I don't know when I will be doing another one. I actually wasn't planning on doing this one. And so I know that this is one that is called for such a time as this. And so get yourself in the room. Again, this is a free event and it will be hosted online, and all details you will receive when you register. So there are 2 options. You can register and get the general ticket for free. Or you can do both. You can get that general ticket and then upgrade to our VIP war room, where we're going to be going deep, like in prayer and strategy and community, and really getting your questions answered with spotlight coaching. So if you're in this place to where you've been stuck, like, make sure that you upgrade. Literally, it's only $45. That's crazy for the value that you're going to get in the upgraded VIP room. If you're like, hey, LaDondra, I can't do that right now, cool. Get your general session ticket and join us for free. So all you got to do is you go to bit.ly, bit.ly and /Rise Up Deborah. And all of that information is going to be in the bio or even in the description of this podcast. So make sure that you get registered. We are literally starting next week on next Monday. So you want to go ahead and get your ticket and get in the room, because this is going to be an incredible event. I believe that it's going to be monumental in the shifts that you're going to get to create to elevate you and your family as you step back into the promises of God. Reclaim those. Take the actions necessary to elevate your financial position. So let's get into today's topic, y'all, because I'm really excited about what the Lord has laid on my heart. And it's all in alignment with what we will be doing with the Deborah Challenge. So today we're talking about the power, purpose, and pressures of disruptive leaders who've been called to break generational cycles. So, as you know, and if you haven't read, go to Judges 4-5. And in Judges 4-5, it's all about the story of Deborah. And Deborah was the first woman judge who was even elevated even to a main judge, because there was lower judge, there was main judges. And she was a woman prophetess, and she was a leader. She was married, and she was called during a time to where her people was in oppression. And she was called to the battlefield during this time to really help them to step into God's promises and to conquer the one who had been conquering them. And y'all, the reason why Deborah comes up so strong, and I know that the Lord is leading me towards this, because her being the first leader, woman leader, prophetess, and just really carrying the responsibilities that she carried, that was disruptive. That was disruptive. It was her being a generational change agent. It was her stepping out her comfort zone to do and be all the things that God had already destined for her to be. And so, a lot of times we find ourselves in these positions to where we're like, my business is not taking off, my team is struggling, and all these different things. But one thing that we got to slow down and really realize is that, hey, have I really stopped to wake up and to rise up to the fullness of the calling that God has on my life and on my business? There was a part in Judges 5 where they literally called Deborah up, and they was like, wake up, wake up. They were waking her up. They were telling her it's time to rise up for battle. It's time to step into that next level. It is time. And so if you've been in that place to where you have been struggling and you've been in a slumber, and you're like, my business has been in a slumber, my marriage has been in a slumber, my children has been in a slumber. We've been in a place to where it has felt hard. Maybe this is your call up to wake up. Wake up, Deborah. Wake up, Deborah. This is your time. And it's going to require you to step into a next level of leadership. And the reason why I call this episode The Power, Purpose, and Pressure of Disruptive Leaders is because there is power in being the leader. Deborah had power. She was literally the one that her people went to during the times of oppression, during the time of uncertainty, during the time of unsettling. She had power. She also had been authorized by the Lord to be in that position. Her purpose was to stand in that position, hear from God, and to lead her people into battle. But it came at a price. It came with pressures. And many of us find ourselves in that place to where we are holding the mantle of leadership, and the pressures, they are real. And those pressures, many of us are running away from those pressures because it's like, who am I to stand in this position? Am I really qualified? Am I equipped? Am I prepared? Am I all the things? But let me tell you, you are everything that God has already destined and called you to be. And so the only way that you can really step into that next level of leadership and break the cycle is to get uncomfortable and to understand that there are pressures, but pressures refine you. Pressures are the tool that God uses to elevate you. It's a tool that God uses to refine you. It is a tool that God uses to really elevate your faith. It is a tool that God uses to really push you out into those levels that you have been desiring to enter into. Pressure is a tool. And so I just want to call out some of the things that Deborah may have felt. And as she was stepping into this area of leadership, as she was getting on the battlefield to do the work that God had called her to do, I was inclined to think like, okay, us as business owners, we carry these same weights. as Deborah. And so I wanted to break these things down. So if you're here in this season and you're feeling the weight, or you're feeling the pressures of the leadership, I want you to know that first and foremost, you're ready, you're called, you're equipped, you're anointed, and you're appointed. And so I just want you to get through it, because the thing that helped Deborah and her people to conquer those who had oppressed them was that she stepped into it. She pressed past her fears. She pressed past her inadequacies. She pressed past everything that would hold her back. And so some of the things that Deborah could have been feeling and that you may be feeling, I just want to go down the list, is that she may have felt alone. Because after all, she was the first woman judge who more than likely didn't get to sit in the courts with the men and to have access to the same tools that the other men judges had access to, and the other community and resources that they had access to. See, listen, one thing about Deborah, though, is she didn't use that as an excuse. She used it as an opportunity to rise up into her position. She used it as an opportunity to lean on God harder, to trust God even more, and to trust that what he said, it's so. And so many times we get into a position where we feel like, well, I feel alone, and so I want to quit. I want to give up. I don't know if I'm called to this. I don't know if I can really go through it. What I'm going to challenge you is to go through it, because God is with you. And the fact that he's called you to the position, you're ready for it. And in order for you to be a disruptor, you have to be willing to do some things where it's going to require you and God some time. And as you get through it, God will send help. He sent her help on the battlefield. Another woman who the people were literally, she was the one who killed the enemy. God had help on the battlefield that Deborah had no idea about. But there was a girl named Jael who rose up and partnered with Deborah on the mission that she had been assigned to. So just because you feel alone doesn't mean that you really are alone. God has prepared the way for you. Don't forget that. Some other things as being a disruptive leader, some of the pressures that Deborah may have felt is her fear of not getting it right. Fear and the pressures of being the first woman to lead an army into a battle. The fear of, I don't have the knowledge and the resources and the things that traditionally is given. So what if I don't get it right? How many of you have found yourself in that place where you're wondering, like, okay, God, you've called me here, but I don't have all the tools and the resources that Susie, Dan, and everybody else has, but yet you're still called to it. I'm bringing these things forward, these pressures forward as a disruptive leader, because you have to disrupt the mode and say, you know what? Even then, I choose to stand in the assignment that God has placed on my life. I choose to trust his voice. I choose to trust his word. I choose to stand on him. I choose to allow the sword of the word of God to protect me. I choose to allow the shield of faith to cover me. I choose to allow the voice of God to order my steps and direct my path. I choose God over my fear. The third thing that Deborah may have felt, and that you may be feeling as a disruptive leader, you may even feel, because being a disruptive leader is not always about just feeling the pressures, but there's some good things that you may be feeling that also, it can be almost like a catch-22. She may have felt proud to be the first woman leader in her tribe and a main judge a prophetess, one who people would seek out during times of trouble, during times of oppression. She was the one who was sought out. So she must have felt proud of herself. And I know that many of you are feeling proud of yourself. But I'll say that with that being said, sometimes we allow the enemy to come and take that away from us, that sense of high esteem, that sense of being proud, and that sense of standing in that position of honor, and make us feel the weight of being the first. The weight of, well, I am the first woman. How do I handle this? I am the first leader. I am the first one in my family. I am the first one to break this cycle. I am the first one to go to college. I am the first one to choose to do business God's way. I am the first one. And so although there's this sense of pride that comes up, there's this sense of responsibility. There's this weight that you may be carrying, because it's like, well, again, what if I get it wrong? What if everybody, all eyes on me? What if they cancel me for what I have to say? Because cancel culture is real. But I will tell you that God is greater, and everything that he wants to go forth, it's going to go forth, and no weapon formed against it cannot prosper. Not even those who try to cancel. Whatever they try to cancel is just going to be just kicked out, because it will be rendered powerless, because whatever God says, it will be. Another thing that Deborah may have been feeling as a disruptive leader is the pressures of being a woman who leading ahead of her husband. That wasn't common in that time. And listen, as women, this is something that is becoming something that's a little bit more common, but it's still uncomfortable. As a woman leading an assignment before a husband, now let me help you out. This doesn't mean that the order is that you are the head of your household. That's not what that means, because she still fell under the anointing of the order of being under her husband, being under the covering of her husband, because he is the first. But she still stood even then in her assignment, because she had an assignment that was separate from her role as wife. And being in that assignment, she didn't say, okay, well, I'm just gonna be a wife, or I'm just gonna be a mom. No, she chose to say, you know what? I can do both and. I can stand here in this position as a leader and do exactly what God has assigned me to do. Be a great wife, and be a great leader, and to respond to the needs of my community, to respond to the needs of my country, and still keep things in a biblical order according to God's assignment for my life and the roles that he has set out for us. And it's not that I'm less than or my husband is less than. We are equal too. And we're serving one another on this mission. We're serving one another in the battlefield. We're serving one another towards a position of purpose. The last thing that I want to call out that is a pressure of a disruptive leader like Deborah is the responsibility to carry through on God's promises. How many of us know that that's not always an easy thing? To really carry that responsibility. We've heard from God. We know exactly what God has said that we are supposed to do in our businesses. But yet, the weight of the responsibility, it feels heavy. The weight of the responsibility, it makes us question ourselves and our ability. It makes us feel like, who am I to step into this? It may make us feel imposter. It may make us feel like, God, who, me? I'm just a woman. Who, me? I come from the least tribe. That's not even noticed. My family, like we're not wealthy. We're not known in the community. My educational background don't support me to stand in this position. God? I don't have the resources like all the other entrepreneurs do. But yet and still, the responsibility still stands. I'm here to call you up. Wake up, Deborah. Because regardless of what you feel, you're still assigned. And the fact that you've been given the assignment means that you're equipped, you're qualified, and you're ready. I want to challenge you, instead of you putting the pressure on you, put the pressure on God. Put the pressure on God. And when I put the pressure on God, instead of you trying to do it by your works, do it by faith. Deborah stood in her assignment by faith, and she walked hand in hand with God. She heard him. She listened. She obeyed, and she conquered the lands by taking courageous action. And sis, if you're really wanting to be that disruptive leader that you've been called to be, and to tap into the power and the purpose of what it means to be a disruptive leader, and to break those generational cycles as Deborah did, being the first woman to do what she did, to help her people in a time of oppression, then I want you to know that it's going to cause for you to rise up. Rise up, Deborah. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up, Deborah. Now is your time. Now is your season. These things that a disruptive leader, the pressures that the disruptive leader go through, those are not things that should hold you back. Those are things just to take notice of. The journey may feel like I may get alone, but I'm never alone because God is always with me. And he's prepared the way. He's even prepared a JL along the way to conquer the giant before me. Number 1. 2, fear, it's not an excuse. It's not about me trying to get it right. It's more about me leaning on God. And I can feel, number 3, proud for being the first in my family, for being the first in my community, for being the first. But I'm not going to allow the weight and the pressures to hold me back and stifle my growth and make me feel as though I can't move forward because being the first is too scary. I'm not going to allow it. I'm going to take that sense of pride and continue to lean on the Lord and allow him to be my strength every step of the way. 4, I'm not going to let pressure of me being out front of my husband to stifle me. And 5, the responsibility to carry through on God's promises. I'm going to put the pressure on God, and I'm going to trust him every step of the way. Y'all, we're going to be going deep. I cannot I can't cover all of this in one podcast. The things that we talked about today, I just want you to know that we're just getting started. There are deep dive levels that we're going to take things through this Deborah challenge. So if you have not signed up, sign up now. Now is your time. Now is your time to enter into your next level, to reclaim God's promises, and to step into that elevated financial position, because it is your time. I'm going to just keep saying it. It is your time. It's time to rise up, Deborah. I'll see you at the free 5-day event. And then if you're even more bolder and ready, I'll see you with an upgraded ticket in the VIP room. Don't forget to go into the description of this podcast and get the link to register. Chat later. Did that episode feel juicy or what? If so, please do me a favor and take 30 seconds to write a review. Your review helps us to spread the mission of creating generational wealth around the world. And if you tag me on IG stories, I'll be sure to reshare the love. And don't forget to join our Kingdom Collaborators Network, where we're coming together to intentionally collaborate to grow our business. Until next time, remember, for with Christ, nothing is impossible.